Hello and welcome to Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online. My name is Kelly and I'm a former wedding planner and blogger, and I'm obsessed with weddings. If you're planning a wedding in Ireland, you're in the right place. You're going to learn the tried and tested methods to planning your dream wedding without the added stress. Think of this as your one-stop shop for everything to do with planning your wedding in Ireland, with me, your new wedding planning bestie, and a cup of tea. This is Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online. Well, hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online podcast. If you don't know, sometimes when I'm planning on taking a holiday, like I did over Christmas, I'll record a few episodes ahead of time, which is what I did for kind of Christmas Day to the first and the second Wednesday of January. And so this is actually the first episode that I'm recording in the new year, and I'm happy to be back. I feel rested after a holiday. And today we're talking about one of my favorite subjects in the whole world, which is dogs. So I don't have a dog of my own. And so if you're looking, if you're enjoying this podcast content today via video, you'll notice that I have got a dog on screen with me. Not a real life dog, unfortunately, but this little guy in the corner is one of a couple of little stuffed dogs that I have, because I live in a flat and I can't have a dog yet. But I do love dogs so much. And if I had a dog when I was getting married, I can guarantee that dog would have featured in our wedding in some way. Because if you're a dog owner, your dog is not just a pet, your dog is a member of the family. And so if you're listening to this episode today because you have a dog and you're trying to figure out if you can incorporate your dog into the festivities, well, I'm going to walk you through some different things that you can do, things that you should consider, logistics that you might not have thought of, ways you can make your dog feel comfortable, ways you can make your guests feel comfortable, different people that need to be included in the conversation, and just really making sure that you know if this is the right thing to do for you and for your dog. And if you think it is, then what to actually do to make it happen so that your dog can be part of your wedding day. So I do have a special guest who's going to join me in helping to determine if your dog should be in your wedding or not. But before we get there, there is somebody else that you do need to speak to before you even make any dog-related wedding plans, and that is your wedding venue. So most wedding venues will have some kind of policy when it comes to pets and animals, and they'll be able to share that with you. So the rules will be slightly different from venue to venue. Ask your venue what is possible, what you're allowed to do before you start initiating any plans to incorporate your pet into your wedding. So some venues will be completely okay with having a dog indoors or outdoors. Others will only allow dogs outdoors, and some won't be able to host pets at all. I must note that it is a legal requirement for venues to incorporate guide dogs into the festivities. And so what we're really talking about today is not the guide dog side of things, but actually the more social aspect of your pet being included in your wedding. So if you are thinking about things from a disability perspective, an accessibility perspective for you, for a family member or for a guest at your wedding, then I want to encourage you to listen to episode 36 of the podcast, because in that episode we spoke all about, planning a wedding that is disability friendly. And in there we did talk a little bit about guide dogs. So that really is a separate topic, because as far as I'm concerned, if you have an emotional support animal, or if you have a guide dog, that's not a want kind of thing. This is like, I need to have my pet in my wedding. Like, this isn't just like, it would be really nice because my pet's super cute. So listen to episode 36, and I still encourage you to talk to your venue just to see, what's possible, what they can do to help accommodate your dog. But when it comes to the more social side of things, and, you've got a cute dog, you want to incorporate him or her because, it's a member of the family, talk to your venue. There are loads of dog-friendly venues all over Ireland, and many of them pride themselves on how they go above and beyond for the furry guests as well as everybody else. There are venues that have safe grounds for the pets so that they can enjoy a walk during the day. A lot of venues have dog-friendly rooms because, of course, many people will want their dog to stay over with them if they're traveling for the wedding. And there are even venues that have kennels on site, and they include treats and toys and water and different things to help the dog feel comfortable and at home on site. And so I'm going to link to a blog post that I've written with a list of dog-friendly wedding venues across Ireland. And in that post, you'll see cute pictures of dogs on site at many of these wedding venues. And there'll be links to where you can contact the venues and you can find out more. So if you're at the point of wedding planning where you haven't yet chosen a venue, maybe you don't even have a date or anything, and you're really just thinking about what your wedding could be like, and you're thinking, I want to include my dog. I wonder if I can find a venue that's going to accommodate me. Well, then take a look at the link. I'll put it in the notes for this episode. And if you are a visual kind of person, you'll probably appreciate knowing that all of our podcast episodes also have a written excerpt that will be on the blog. So weddingsonline.ie/blog. There's a category in there called podcast. And within that category, there's a blog post for each episode. And today's episode is 136. And in there, you'll find a link to this blog post as well. And you'll also find a link to our guest, who we're going to get to in a moment. So you can find out more about them. I'm a visual person, so when I'm listening to things, I like to read along as well. It's not word for word, but it's notes from the episode. It's the notes that I've got in front of me right now. But a reminder that the first step is to talk to your venue. If you don't have a venue, find a venue that's dog friendly and plan around that. But definitely click on the link in the notes so that you can find out more about those specific wedding venues that have said they're dog friendly. Okay, next thing, I've alluded to this already, but before you make any decisions, after speaking to your venue, you do need to consider if your dog is going to have a good time. Having your dog in your wedding could be your idea of the best day ever. I know it would certainly be mine, as, if I was getting married and my dog was there, or if I was attending a wedding and then there was a dog there, it would certainly be my idea of the best day ever. But it might not be something that your dog is going to enjoy. So, some dogs are shy and introverted, others get very excited and energetic. So seriously consider if your pet's personality will allow them to shine, or if they're going to feel anxious and unsettled throughout the day. I actually had a conversation with our special guest. Her name is Paulina, and she's from Dogs Trust. And if you've never heard of Dogs Trust, they're actually Ireland's largest dog welfare charity. They rescue and rehome dogs all over Ireland. In fact, they have rehomed over 23,000 dogs since the opening of their rehoming center in 2009, which I think is amazing. And they definitely know everything there is to know about making dogs feel comfortable and settled and at home. And so I spoke to Paulina and I asked her, what should couples keep in mind when they're deciding if they should include their dog in the wedding festivities? And she's given some really practical things to think about, as well as a few suggestions for what you could do to help your dog feel comfortable if you decide to include them in the day. So have a little listen. This is Paulina from Dogs Trust, and I think you're going to learn a few really interesting things from her.
Including your dog in your wedding can be such a heartwarming way to celebrate your bond, but it's really important to make sure it's something they'll enjoy too. So the first thing to think about is their actual personality. So are they comfortable in large crowds, or do they get anxious around too many people? And, maybe they're on the shy side and could get overwhelmed easily. And if that sounds like your dog, having them at the wedding itself might not be the best idea. But that also doesn't mean that they can't be part of the celebration. You could include them in the pre-wedding photo shoot, or, maybe a quieter event leading up to the big day. And if they are joining you at the wedding, make sure someone is designated to watch over them. This should be someone your dog knows and trusts, so that they feel secure throughout all the excitement. And finally, when it comes to dressing them up, simplicity is key. So a cute bow tie on their collar or a wedding-themed bandana are perfect, because both are adorable without making them feel uncomfortable on the day.
Well, that was Paulina from Dogs Trust, and she really raises a good point that, you've got to assess your dog's personality. But at the end of the day, if you find that your dog is perhaps a little bit more on the anxious side and might not have a great time being there for the whole day, that doesn't mean that the answer is, yes or no. It could be that you incorporate your dog for a portion of the day, and we'll get to that in a moment. But why don't we have a look at just a few things that you can do to help your dog to feel really comfortable on the day. One thing is to think about the walks. Every dog loves a walk. I've watched so many videos of people asking their dog, do you want to go for a walk? And just seeing the excitement. My dog, when I had a dog growing up, was exactly the same. So think about how many walks your dog would usually go on in a day, and then find a way to either structure your wedding around the walks or incorporate walk breaks for the dog into the wedding. Weddings won't often have time for breaks for the dog, but it is possible for you to schedule time in so that your dog can run around, let off steam, get some fresh air and, just release some energy. Another thing is to think about the setting. We've spoken before about having a conversation with your wedding venue, but it's also helpful to think about, like, beyond what the wedding venue will allow. It's to think about if your dog is actually going to feel accommodated in the space. So a city wedding venue or a fancy hotel or a wedding venue that might not have a lot of outdoor space probably isn't going to be a good fit. So what I've mentioned before is that a solution could be that you incorporate your dog into the ceremony and then you arrange for somebody to collect the dog afterwards. And so you still get to have your dog as part of the festivities, but not necessarily there for the entire day. So again, it's not a yes or no situation. It's just working out if it makes sense for your dog to be there for the whole day or just for the ceremony and then to go home again afterwards. Something else to think about is the food and water. So now you're going to spend months agonizing over the food and drinks that your guests are going to enjoy, but don't forget your pet. You could arrange food and water bowls, ask your wedding venue if there's anything that they can provide, and what they're happy to distribute to your pet. And just like Paulina suggested, having a person that your dog feels very comfortable with looking after them, you can always, or what you probably should do, is designate to that person the responsibility of making sure that your dog is fed and has had water throughout the day as well. And then a few logistics. Do you want your pet to be with you for the whole day or just the ceremony? Will they actually only come for the outdoor reception? Think about all your different options and then plan things accordingly. If your pet isn't going to be with you for the whole day, who's going to drive them to the ceremony venue, or who's going to pick them up and take them home, and who's going to stay with them at home if that's what you think they need? Just think about all those different moving parts, and bear in mind that many of the people you would usually call on to help with this kind of thing are probably going to be celebrating the wedding with you. So think about if you need to get someone else in place, and if you then need to spend time allowing your dog to get comfortable with that person ahead of the wedding day before they're involved. So there are a few things that you need to consider, but it is totally worth it. Two more things that I'd like to remind you of. The one is think about your pet's favorite things. You want to keep your dog comfortable, you want to keep them feeling at home, and the best way to do that is to have some of their favorite things. We're talking about things like their toys, their favorite snacks. It could be a cozy bed or blanket. You want them to feel comfortable and entertained throughout the day, especially considering the fact that they're going to be in an unfamiliar environment. In fact, you may want to bring their actual dog bed with you so that even when they're in a space that they don't know, they'll recognize their bed, and that could help them to feel very settled and comfortable. And you can, include their favorite toys and snacks and things that they're going to love that will help them to just, unwind a little bit at different points in the day. And finally, when you're making the decision about to incorporate your dog or not, think about your guests, actually. Do you have any guests who are allergic to dogs? Do you have any venue staff, suppliers, or guests who may be afraid of dogs? Now, it doesn't have to be a thing of like them or the dog. Like, we're not going to get dramatic here. You don't have to, make huge decisions. But it might just be letting these people know that your dog will be included in the festivities, so they can either choose to keep their distance, or they could bring antihistamines or whatever it is that's going to help them to feel comfortable with having a dog around. So again, with most of these things, it's not normally a yes or no or a them or the dog situation, but it's more about thinking about these things so that when it comes to the planning, you don't end up getting surprised closer to the time that you haven't thought of something. So once again, big thank you to Paulina from Dogs Trust for joining in and sharing her expertise. I'm going to leave a link to Dogs Trust again for the notes in this episode, and also on the Weddings Online website, so that you can check them out, find out what they do. And yeah, they have a lot of information on their website about including dogs in weddings and looking after your dog, and very interesting content. So you'll definitely enjoy what you find on the website. Well, thank you for listening today. The Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online podcast is produced by me, Kelly, and mixed, mastered, and edited by Glenn Hartman. For more wedding planning tips, advice, checklists, and more, visit weddingsonline.ie.